You could be spending, honestly, hundreds of dollars a month on these premium horse supplements, meticulously measuring out all these different powders and liquids.
And completely wasting your money.
Right. Because of a simple, biological quirk in your horse's gut, you might actually be blocking them from absorbing any nutrients at all.
Oh, absolutely. It's the ultimate irony of modern horse management, I think.
Yeah, you aren't just wasting money. You could literally be starving them of the exact minerals you are trying so desperately to give them.
Exactly. I mean, we have more nutritional science at our fingertips today than ever before, but we are inadvertently creating these incredibly complex metabolic imbalances just by, walking into a feed store and grabbing a few colorful plastic buckets off the shelf.
It's so true. Well, welcome to today's deep dive. If you've ever stood in the middle of a feed store aisle feeling completely overwhelmed, wondering if you need a literal PhD in equine biology just to buy a joint supplement, this one is for you.
It's a very relatable feeling.
Oh, totally. Like standing in the human vitamin aisle, just buying things just in case.
All right.
So today we are pulling heavily from this really comprehensive guide called The Ultimate Guide to Horse Supplements, What Your Equine Partner Really Needs.
Right, by Laurent Fabian over at Ingredientsage.
Yes, exactly. And our mission today is to basically cut through the heavy marketing hype. We want to figure out how a horse actually utilizes these nutrients biologically and highlight those really costly, sometimes dangerous mistakes that we owners make when we just start mixing things together.
It's a great mission because honestly, before we even touch a plastic scoop, we really have to look at the massive metabolic mismatch between how a horse is built to eat and how we actually feed them.
The wild versus domestic contract.
Exactly. The equine digestive tract is just this marvel of evolutionary engineering. I mean, they are hindgut fermenters. So their cecum, which is basically a massive fermentation vat in their lower gut, is designed for a really slow, continuous trickle of low-quality, highly fibrous roughage.
So they're essentially biological lawnmowers.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Built to just process a constant stream of stems and stalks for 18 hours a day. But a modern boarding stable doesn't look anything like that.
Not at all.
We put them in a stall, we feed them 2 massive, highly concentrated meals a day, and we expect their gut to just magically adapt.
Which it physically cannot do. It just can't. When you dump a large volume of concentrated feed into the stomach all at once, you create this highly acidic environment.
And that acid is bad news.
Really bad news. That acid flushes down into the hindgut and starts actively killing off the beneficial microbes, the very microbes that are responsible for actually fermenting and digesting their food.
Wow.
Yeah, so this modern feeding schedule is just fundamentally at odds with their biology. It immediately compromises their natural ability to extract nutrients from their feed.
And then you add in the reality of what we are actually feeding them. Because the Fabian guide dives deep into this invisible problem, soil depletion.
Oh, this is such a huge issue.
Right. Because we look at a bale of hay, and if it's green and smells sweet, we just assume it's nutritionally perfect.
Yeah.
But a plant can only synthesize vitamins. It cannot synthesize minerals.
Right. It has to pull those minerals straight from the dirt.
Exactly. So if a pasture has been heavily grazed or intensively hayed for, say, 50 years?
The micronutrients in that topsoil are simply gone. They aren't there anymore. So the hay grown on that land, I mean, it might have plenty of calories and it might have great crude protein, but it could be entirely devoid of critical trace minerals.
Like copper, zinc, or selenium.
Exactly.
See, I always used to assume that if I'm feeding my horse top-tier, incredibly expensive orchard grass or, alfalfa, that my foundation is just fully covered. I mean, I'm spending a fortune on it.
A lot of people think that.
It's frustrating to realize that the hay is literally only as good as the dirt it grew in. And we obviously can't see dirt quality with the naked eye.
You really can't. And that invisible gap is exactly why Fabian emphasizes the golden rule of equine nutrition. You cannot supplement your way out of a poor foundation diet.
Base diet first, always.
Base diet first. You have to establish quality forage first, and preferably test that forage to see what the soil in your specific region is actually lacking. Only then do you even consider opening a supplement bucket.
Okay, so let's say you've done that. You've tested your hay, you understand the base diet, and now you need to fill those specific structural holes.
No.
The Ingredientsage material breaks the supplement world down into 4 main categories.
Right.
And instead of just listing them off, let's look at this biologically, starting right where the food enters the system. Digestive health.
That's a perfect place to start.
Now, I used to think of this category as basically just like feeding horses yogurt. But it is vastly more complex than that.
Oh, vastly. The digestive category is the ultimate foundation because it dictates nutrient absorption. Basically, if the gut isn't functioning and nothing else you feed the horse matters, they won't absorb it.
Right.
So we are primarily dealing with three distinct tools here. Prebiotics, probiotics, and enzymes.
And people use prebiotics and probiotics interchangeably all the time. But they do completely different jobs.
Completely different. So probiotics are the actual live microbial strains. You are introducing living bacteria into the gut to repopulate the microbiome.
Which is really crucial after a high-stress event, right? Like a long trailer ride or a heavy course of antibiotics or a bout of colic.
Exactly, you're bringing in the reinforcements. Prebiotics, on the other hand, are the food for those bacteria.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they are these complex, indigestible fibers that travel all the way down into the hindgut to fertilize the existing beneficial microbes so they can multiply on their own.
Okay, that makes sense. Probiotics are the bugs, prebiotics are the food, and then you have the digestive enzymes, which are essentially, well, chemical scissors.
Chemical scissors is a great way to picture it.
Yeah, like if a horse is struggling to break down complex carbohydrates or proteins, the enzymes physically cleave those molecular bonds in the foregut so the nutrients can actually cross the intestinal wall into the bloodstream.
Spot on. So moving from the gut, the next biological system that takes the heaviest beating in a domesticated horse is the framework, the joints.
The joints. This is the aisle everyone goes to first. Glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM. We throw these words around constantly, but let's break down how they actually repair a joint.
Let's do it.
So think of a horse's joint cartilage, like a dense, fluid-filled sponge sitting between two massive bones. When a horse lands after a jump, that sponge compresses to absorb the shock.
But over time, the fluid inside that sponge depletes and the sponge itself starts to fray and break down.
Right.
So glucosamine acts as a biological precursor. It essentially signals the joint to manufacture more synovial fluid, which plumps that sponge back up.
Okay, so glucosamine brings the fluid. What about chondroitin?
Chondroitin works on the other end of the equation. It actively inhibits the destructive enzymes that naturally break the cartilage down.
So they're basically playing offense and defense at the same time, plumping it up and stopping the breakdown? And what about MSM? That's the one that always confused me. I see it on every label.
Yeah, MSM is a highly bioavailable form of organic sulfur.
Sulfur?
Yeah, and sulfur is the essential structural glue that holds collagen fibers together. So while glucosamine brings the fluid and chondroitin stops the breakdown, MSM provides the literal raw materials to maintain the structural integrity of the joint capsule itself.
Wow. Yeah.
Plus, it's a powerful natural anti-inflammatory. But the key thing to remember here is that none of these three compounds work overnight. You're trying to influence cellular metabolism and structural tissue repair.
And that biological timeline is something we really struggle with as owners. I mean, we want to feed a scoop of powder and see a totally sound horse on Tuesday.
Oh, we're so impatient.
We really are. But the guide is very clear that these joint compounds take a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks of continuous daily use before the structural changes are actually significant enough to reduce visible stiffness. You can't just quit after 2 weeks.
You really can't. Which brings us to the third category, vitamins and minerals. And this circles right back to our earlier discussion about soil depletion.
Right, fixing the regional gaps.
Exactly. Like adding selenium if you live in the Pacific Northwest where the soil is just notoriously devoid of it.
But this category comes with a pretty severe toxicity warning in the research. We have this, human tendency to think, if a little bit is good, a massive scoop must be amazing.
Oh, definitely.
But with certain minerals, the line between essential for life and literally toxic is incredibly thin.
Yes, and selenium is the perfect example of that. I mean, a tiny microcalculated amount is absolutely essential for a horse's thyroid function and muscle recovery.
But if you oversupplement it,
If you oversupplement it, selenium toxicity causes their mane and tail hairs to break off. And eventually, their hoof walls can physically detach from the foot.
oh, wow, that is terrifying.
It is. You are playing with highly potent elements here. More is not always better.
Which leads perfectly into the final category, performance and recovery. Now, I used to look at these tubs and think they were basically just Gatorade for horses.
Right, just some electrolytes and sugar.
Exactly. But we are actually talking about managing the severe cellular damage caused by intense work.
We are. Heavy athletic exertion, whether it is barrel racing, 3-day eventing, or honestly just a grueling endurance trail ride, It creates a massive spike in oxidative stress.
Right.
As the horse burns oxygen for fuel, it creates a byproduct called free radicals.
And free radicals are essentially these unstable molecules that are missing an electron. So they are chaotic. They just bounce around the horse's system, stealing electrons from healthy muscle cells, which damages those cells and causes severe muscle fatigue and soreness.
Exactly. And the performance category combats this by introducing high levels of antioxidants, like vitamin E and vitamin C.
Which donate electrons, right?
Yes, antioxidants are molecules that willingly donate an electron to those free radicals, totally neutralizing them before they can destroy the muscle tissue.
That is so cool.
It really is. And then you pair those antioxidants with targeted amino acids, which are the literal biological Lego bricks the horse uses to physically rebuild the micro tears in the muscle fibers.
So understanding the deep biology of these four groups, digestive, joints, vitamins, and performance, it makes it incredibly obvious why you have to customize the diet based on the horse's age and workload.
Oh, it's non-negotiable. Every horse is an individual.
Right. Like if I have a 25-year-old retired trail horse, their engine isn't producing massive amounts of free radicals, so they don't need heavy antioxidants.
No, not at all.
But their physical framework is degrading, so they desperately need the glucosamine and MSM, like a maintenance package.
Precisely. Conversely, if you look at a 5-year-old high-level dressage horse, they probably have perfectly pristine joints, but their gut is under massive stress from frequent travel, and their muscles are constantly tearing and rebuilding.
Right, the high-performance package.
Yeah, their biological needs are entirely opposite. Honestly, consulting a vet or an equine nutritionist to analyze the diet is often way cheaper than just randomly guessing.
Okay, so let's navigate into what I like to call the danger zone.
Uh-oh.
Because, you've researched the biology, you know what categories your specific horse needs, and you start buying buckets. But the Ingredientsage guide highlights a massive pitfall here called supplement stacking.
Yes. This is where good intentions create metabolic disasters.
Tell me about it.
So an owner reads that a certain hoof supplement is fantastic. Then they read that a specific coat shining supplement is amazing. Then they buy an overarching multivitamin.
Because they want to cover all their bases.
Right. So they feed all three simultaneously, completely failing to realize that all three products contain heavily fortified levels of zinc and iron.
And those minerals don't just politely wait their turn inside the digestive tract.
No, they don't.
Think of the intestinal wall like a high-stakes game of musical chairs. There are only a very specific number of receptor sites, the chairs, available for trace minerals to pass through into the bloodstream.
Exactly. And minerals like iron, copper, and zinc, they actively compete for those exact same chairs. So if you unknowingly stack multiple supplements and flood the gut with massive amounts of iron, the iron molecules take up every single available receptor site.
Which means the copper literally has nowhere to sit.
It has nowhere to sit. It just passes straight through the digestive tract unabsorbed. So by trying to aggressively supplement your horse, you have artificially induced a severe copper deficiency.
Wow.
And that can lead to coat bleaching, weakened tendons, and even developmental orthopedic diseases. The interaction of these elements is this complex web. If you pull on one string too aggressively, it distorts the entire matrix.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But your ultimate defense against stacking is just strict label reading, right?
Yeah.
Specifically looking for something called a guaranteed analysis.
Yes. A guaranteed analysis is a legally binding, transparent breakdown of the exact milligrams or international units of every single active ingredient in the product.
So it actually lets you grab a calculator and do the math.
Exactly. You can do the math to ensure you aren't overlapping massive doses of competing minerals across your different buckets.
You contrast that with what the guide warns heavily against, which is the proprietary blend.
Oh, proprietary blends are so frustrating.
It's like looking at a restaurant menu that proudly states a dish contains, salt, pepper, and rare white truffles.
But the chef legally doesn't have to tell you that the dish is 99.9% salt and contains only, microscopic dustings of truffles.
Right. The manufacturers hide the actual ratios behind a trademark name. You have zero idea if you are feeding a biologically significant dose of a really expensive ingredient, or if it's just in there for label appeal.
And if you don't know the exact mathematical amounts, you simply cannot safely balance the rest of the horse's diet. It's impossible.
But beyond the chemistry, the guide points out a psychological danger zone for owners too, and that is misdiagnosis.
Yes. We have this tendency to project nutritional deficiencies onto behavioral or management issues.
Like reaching for a plastic bottle instead of reaching for the phone to call a saddle fitter or a trainer.
It happens every single day. An owner has a horse that is suddenly spooky or anxious and misbehaving under saddle, and the immediate assumption is, oh, it's a nervous system imbalance.
Right.
So they rush out and spend hundreds of dollars on these trendy calming supplements containing high doses of magnesium or valerian root, basically attempting to chemically alter the horse's brain chemistry.
When the biological reality is that the horse is reacting to severe mechanical pain. The saddle tree is pinching their spine or their teeth need floating, and the bit is causing agony.
Or they simply haven't been desensitized to the environment at all.
Yeah, so the calming powder is just deployed as a chemical mask for a physical or behavioral problem.
Exactly. It is absolutely imperative to rule out obvious pain, tack fit, and foundational training issues before you ever attempt to modify a horse's behavior through nutrition.
So as you stand there in the feed store aisle, staring at that overwhelming wall of brightly colored plastic buckets, what is the ultimate takeaway here? I mean, supplements are undeniably valuable, scientifically proven tools, but they are not magic erasers for bad management.
No, they are precision instruments. They are meant to fill very specific, mathematically calculated gaps in an already solid foundation of high-quality forage.
You just have to respect the biology.
Yeah.
You have to understand that musical chairs game of gut absorption to avoid dangerous stacking. Demand a guaranteed analysis so you know exactly what you're paying for, and have the patience to let cellular turnover actually happen over a period of months, not days.
And stop comparing your senior trail horse's requirements to the Olympic jumper on your social media feed. They're completely different. It really requires shifting our mindset, you know? Moving from what can I buy to fix this immediately to how is my horse's specific biology interacting with its environment and where does it actually need targeted support?
And that thought really leads to a much broader question, something for you to ponder long after you leave the feed store today.
Correct.
We talked about how modern selective breeding has traded natural, robust hardiness for fragile peak athletic performance.
We did.
And we talked about the invisible crisis of soil depletion, stripping the essential minerals from the very grass these animals evolved to eat.
Which creates an incredibly precarious trajectory for the entire industry.
It really does. What does the future of equine nutrition actually look like in 20 or 50 years? Are we moving toward a reality where every single bite a performance horse takes has to be synthetically formulated in a laboratory just to keep them sound?
It makes you wonder.
Are we eventually going to abandon the beautiful ancient concept of natural grazing altogether because the earth and the animals themselves have just been altered entirely too much? It is a fascinating, slightly unsettling biological puzzle to think about the next time you pop the lid off a supplement bucket.